We've all been there, right? Staring at a plant we love, one that's just not doing well. And you ask yourself, can I save it? Is there anything I can do? It's a really tough question. But the answer isn't just about feelings, it's about science. And today, we're going to break down a clear, evidence-based way to know when to fight for a plant and when, for the sake of all your other plants, it's really time to let go. You know, this quote comes from the medical world, but wow, does it apply to our plants? Just jumping in and trying things based on a hunch or because you feel bad for the plant, well, you can actually make things a whole lot worse. To really be a good plant parent, you have to start thinking like a plant doctor, and that always starts with a good diagnosis. So here's our game plan. First, we're going to figure out how to tell the difference between a symptom and a real smoking gun. Then we'll talk about why quarantine is such a game changer. After that, we'll get into the tough stuff, identifying the actual point of no return. We'll cover the right and very wrong way to dispose of a sick plant. And finally, we'll wrap up with a clean slate protocol to keep the rest of your collection safe. Okay, let's dive right in. Diagnosis. Honestly, this is the most important step of all. Before you even think about grabbing a fungicide or a fertilizer, you have to know what you're actually dealing with. You need to understand the difference between a plant's cry for help and the actual villain causing all the trouble. So let's start with a symptom. A symptom is just the plant's reaction. Think of it like a person sneezing. You see wilting leaves, yellowing, maybe some branches dying back. But here's the thing. Wilting could mean the plant's thirsty, or it could mean it has a fatal root disease. The symptom just tells you something is wrong. It doesn't tell you what is wrong. It's an alert, not an answer. A sign, however, now that is the smoke and gun. This is the actual physical proof of what's causing the problem. We're talking about seeing that fuzzy white mold, a sticky, weird ooze on the stem, or tiny little insect eggs on the underside of a leaf. When you find a sign, you've found your culprit. So this is the key takeaway here. Symptoms are vague, but signs are conclusive. If you only treat the symptom, you could be making a huge mistake. You might keep watering a plant that's wilting because of root rot, and you're literally just drowning it faster. To make the right call, you absolutely have to hunt for the sign. Okay, so let's say you suspect something nasty and contagious is going on. How do you find out for sure? This is where quarantine comes in, and it is your single most powerful tool. It's not just about protecting your other plants, though that's huge. It's actually a fantastic diagnostic tool. It lets you create a controlled experiment to find out what's really happening. The protocol itself is super simple, but you have to stick to it. First, immediately move that plant to a separate room. No exceptions. Second, give it perfect conditions. The best light, just the right amount of water. You want to remove any and all environmental stress from the equation. And third, just watch it. For 3 to 4 weeks, that time frame is really important for a proper diagnosis. And here's where you get your answer. If that plant is in a perfect little spa environment and it still keeps getting worse, well, you've just proven the problem isn't something simple like a watering issue. It's almost certainly a progressive infectious disease. And at that point, the risk it poses to your entire collection is way bigger than the value of that one single plant. All right, this leads us right to the heart of the matter, the actual point of no return. We're talking about identifying those conditions that are, for all practical purposes, a terminal diagnosis. Knowing these will tell you exactly when it's time to stop fighting a battle you can't win. So there are 3 big categories of incurable diseases you need to know. First, systemic viruses, like mosaic virus, which gives leaves that weird, mottled, deformed look. Second, things called vascular wilts, like verticillium. These basically clog up the plant's arteries from the inside out. And third, major bacterial infections, like fire blight, once it's gotten into the main trunk. If you confirm any of these, disposal isn't a choice anymore. It's a biosecurity requirement. The other major point of no return is catastrophic root rot. And to know for sure, you gotta get your hands dirty. You have to take the plant out of its pot and actually look at the roots. If they're brown, mushy, and smell awful, that's rot. And here's the hard and fast rule. If more than 50% of the root system is dead, its chances of bouncing back are pretty much 0. It just doesn't have enough engine left to power the plant. So you've made the tough call, but what you do next is just as important. How you get rid of that plant can mean the difference between solving the problem and creating a ticking time bomb for your whole garden. This is the #1 question, right? It feels so natural, so eco-friendly. Return the plant to the earth. So, can you just toss that sick plant into your compost bin and let nature work its magic? The answer is a huge, absolute, unequivocal no. Seriously, putting a diseased plant in your home compost pile is one of the worst things you can do. And here's the science why. To kill off most of these nasty plant pathogens, you have to get the compost pile up to at least 145 degrees Fahrenheit. That's about 63 Celsius, and keep it there for a solid 30 minutes. Let's be honest, your backyard compost pile almost never gets that hot, especially not consistently. So instead of killing the disease, you're actually just creating the perfect incubator for it to thrive and multiply. You're basically making supercharged infected soil. The name of the game here is containment. The right way to do this is simple. You take the entire plant, the soil, any fallen leaves, everything, and you seal it up tight in a heavy-duty plastic bag. If it's one of those really bad diseases we talked about, double bag it to be safe. And then you put it in the regular trash. I know it feels wrong, but it's the only way to guarantee those pathogens are out of your environment for good. Okay, the plant is gone. Phew. But you're not done yet. The threat could still be lingering. Those nasty little pathogens can hang out on your tools, in your pots, even in the soil nearby. So a clean slate protocol is absolutely essential to make sure the infection doesn't just jump to a new host. Your two best friends for this job are 70% isopropyl alcohol and a 10% bleach solution. For just general tool cleaning, like wiping down your pruners between plants, alcohol is perfect. It works great and it's not too harsh on the metal. But for those high-risk situations, or for sterilizing old pots, you gotta bring out the big guns, a 1 to 9 bleach and water solution. But remember, bleach is super corrosive, so always rinse your metal tools well and oil them after you use it. And here is a pro tip that so many people miss, especially with terracotta pots. After you've soaked them in that bleach solution, you have to rinse them really, really well with clean water. Why? Because that dry, porous clay will act like a sponge. If there's bleach residue, it can harm the new plant's roots. It can literally suck the moisture right out of the new soil, creating a whole new stress problem for your healthy plant. So let's end with this thought. You've done everything by the book. You made the tough call, you disposed of the plant safely, you sanitized everything. But is it possible the real contamination is hiding somewhere you haven't even looked? Some pathogens can live in the soil for years. Making the right call on one plant is a huge step. But true biosecurity, that's a long-term mindset. It's about being vigilant to create a truly strong and healthy collection.